Hiya 10. Today I'm going to do a model on the visualizer of how to complete visit. You're looking at follower this week, so that is the poem that I will use for the model. Let's read the poem together first. Follower. My father worked with a horse plough. His shoulders globed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. The horse strained at his clicking tongue. An expert, he would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. The sod rolled over without breaking. At the head rig, with a single pluck of reins, the sweating team turned round and back into the land. His eye narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake, fell sometimes on the polished sod. Sometimes he rode me on his back, dipping and rising to his plod. I wanted to grow up and plough, to close one eye, stiffen my arm. All I ever did was follow in his broad shadow round the farm. I was a nuisance, tripping, falling, yapping, always. But today, it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. So, we've read the poem and now we need to do the visit. And I'm going to start with V. V is for vocabulary and we have to circle our three most important words. So I am going to circle globed because I think that is quite an important word. I'm going to circle expert because I think that is quite important. And I'm going to circle stumbling at the very bottom as well. But I don't just circle them, I have to annotate them. So what do they mean? Globed. His father meant the world to him. Expert. Well, his dad appeared to be great at everything. And then stumbling at the very bottom, what does that mean? Well, it suggests that somebody is falling and not powerful. So that's my V. And then at the top of my page, I'm going to put a capital V and say what I think about the vocabulary. Generally, it's quite positive, in my opinion. Okay, now I have to do imagery. Remember, for imagery, that is when we put a box around the images that we think are really clear and important. So I'm going to put a box around I stumbled in his hobnailed wake. I'm going to put a box around dipping and rising to his plod. And I'm going to put another box around the final line of the poem, behind me and will not go away. The reason why. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake. It's a small child falling. And I like the idea of falling in the footprints that his dad's made. Dipping and rising to his plod. For me, that sounds a little bit like the sea, which has ups and downs. And then the final one, behind me and will not go away. That suggests that they've swapped places. And now the dad is the person that is struggling. So pause this video now so you can do your V and your I. Okay, now that I've done the I, I'm going to put my capital I at the top. What do I think about the imagery? Well, I actually think it's quite childlike. It seems like the sorts of things that children would say. So now I've got to do my structure, and we draw wiggly lines under the structure. The first wiggly line I'm going to do is here, and it's because it's white space. If you remember, we use white space when we're either saying that somebody has a lot of things to think about or they have nothing to think about at all. In this case, when he says, but today, he's thinking a lot about this new situation. So thinking of new situation. The next thing I'm going to put a wiggly line under is the full stop. It seems that everything seems finalised. His dad is a farmer. He's very black and white. He doesn't have sort of in-between thoughts. It's either one way or another, and that's why lots of full stops have been used. For my final structure point, I'm going to turn my anthology on its side. In class, we talked about the fact that shape of a poem can sometimes be important. For me, there is a shape to this poem. It goes up and down. And I think it looks like the waves of the ocean. So I'm going to write the word shape here. I'm going to put a wiggly line underneath it to show it's one of my structure things. I'm going to say waves of the ocean. So now I need to go back to the top, write my S. What do I think the structure is? Well, the structure is showing a rocky relationship. Everything seems very up and down, lots of things to think about. So that's me done my V, my I and my S. Before I do my intention and tone, I'm going to do my content and context. So I need to get my yellow highlighter and I'm going to draw a box at the top of my page. And now I'm going to write down what this poem is about. Well, we know it's about a boy following his dad and wanting to be like him. At the end of the poem, the roles are reversed. Dad is following him. So pause this recording now so you can finish off your structure and write your content. The next thing I'm going to do is my context. So I'm going to draw another box, this time with my orange highlighter, because that's what we use for context. What do I know about Seamus Heaney? Well, Heaney writes about himself. And rural Ireland. Now, rural just means in the countryside. I know that he had a rocky relationship with his dad. And the reason he had this is because his dad wanted him to do more with his life. So because his dad wanted more for him. So again, pause this recording so you can get your context written down. So I've done quite a lot with my visit so far. I've done the V, the I and the S. I've done the content and the context. I'm going to do a couple of the bits before I do my intention and tone. So the first thing, I'm going to get my red highlighter and I'm going to draw a box at the top. This is for my ladder of love. So for my ladder of love, I'm saying this is storage, which is family love. If you can't remember these, I've attached the ladder of love PowerPoint to class charts. And he talks about roles reversed. The next thing I'm going to do is get my blue highlighter and I'm going to try and choose my favourite quotation, or the quotation that I think best shows the poem. And I'm going to choose this one. I wanted to grow up and plough. The reason I've chosen that one, this is where all the arguments have come from. He wanted to follow his dad. His dad wanted him to do something better with his life. So pause this video now so you can choose your favourite quotation. The next thing I have to do is intention and tone. So I'm going to draw my capital I here, and we know that it's 3 bullet points. The first bullet point is, why did the poet write it? Well, he wrote this poem to show the relationship with his dad. The second bullet point is, what is the message behind the poem? Now you can put anything you want for this. I think the message is that eventually we have to pay our parents back. So eventually we have to pay our parents back by looking after them. And then the third bullet point for I is, what do you conclude from it? Well, I conclude that the relationship was good, but a little bit rocky. So if you pause this recording now to do your intention. I now have to do my tone. So again, draw my T. First bullet point. The first bullet point is, what is the mood of the person writing it? Well, he's nostalgic, and that just means that he is looking back at the past. I also think he's a little bit sad, but also a little bit proud. My second bullet point, 3 words to describe the poem. I'm going to write memory. I'm going to write sad. And I'm going to write rocky, because for me those 3 things are covered in the poem. The final bullet point is, what is the atmosphere in the poem? So I'm going to write rocky. Now rocky isn't actually an atmosphere in itself, but it's what I think the main thing in the poem is. What I mean by this is, sometimes there's a good atmosphere, and sometimes it's bad. So that's what I mean by rocky. So pause this recording now to do that. I've almost finished my visit now. I've got 2 things left to do: my language and structure highlighting. So I'm only going to do a couple of things for this. The first one is I'm going to draw a massive bracket around the whole poem, the structure. Why I've done this is to show that there is 6 stanza and there are 4 lines each. That's my structural point. The other structural thing I'm going to do is highlight every single full stop at the end of the stanzas. I've already mentioned about the fact that he is black and white and everything seems finalised. These full stops just show that probably. If we highlight this one and write down everything final. For language, I'm going to use my pink highlighter. There's only one thing I'm going to highlight, something that I noticed as I was going through the poem. So I'm going to highlight full sail strung. I'm going to highlight shaft and furrow. In the next stanza, I'm going to highlight steel pointed sock and breaking. I'm going to highlight the word mapping. I'm going to highlight dipping and rising. I think I've spotted a semantic field. A semantic field, remember, is when you have lots of ideas connected to the same theme. So let me just write down semantic field. And I'm hoping that you will have realised that the semantic field is the sea. And I think he's used the sea to show the rockiness of his relationship. So pause this recording now to do your language and structure highlighting. Okay, your visit therefore should look like this. 3 things at the top, the V, the I and the S, with one word saying what they're like, and your ladder of love. At the side you will have the content, the context, the intention and the tone. And then on the actual poem you will have drawn 3 circles, 3 boxes, 3 wiggly lines, and then highlighted using your pink and green anything to do with language and structure. This is the amount of detail I would expect on every poem. If you don't have all the different colour highlighters, you can just use your normal pen or pencil. Good luck getting your visit done, and I shall look forward to seeing what you upload.